So here's me, Sean, hitting you with your early review of Man of Steel. I'm going to do two reviews. One that has no spoilers, just gives you my impression, and then I'm going to give you one that's spoiler heavy where I'm going to go over the whole movie. So the big question that everybody's been asking me is, Man of Steel, how is it? Is it as good as we all just know it's going to be? It's exciting. And it's a thrill the way it was to watch the action scenes of Iron Man 3, but it doesn't have that wallop of truth and sincerity and emotion the way Batman Begins had. The approach to it is everything. Look at what they did with Batman Begins. They had a specific rule that there was going to be no CGI on Batman. Everything you see Batman or the car doing, everything has to be practical to aid in the realism and the audience being able to believe that this is all real and this is actually happening. Maybe there's just no way to make a Superman movie without it being special effects heavy, but my impression of Man of Steel is that Zack Snyder, brilliant visual stylist, was just too busy making sure that the billows of the cape look just so, and that the rocks swirling around him when he flies look just right, and making sure that when they're flying through the air and Superman punches Zod, that we really feel it. The problem is that it keeps trying to do those character things that Batman Begins did, but it keeps throwing these character things up in the air, getting distracted away from it to go run this boilerplate sci-fi action plot, and then when it comes back to the human stuff, it's throwing a new human thing in the air without tying up the last one they threw up in the air. So what you get is a lot of these moments that are supposed to be the things that give us the idea of who Clark Kent is and what shaped him as a man, except that those things aren't really taken to their conclusion. The thing about Man of Steel is that you want to like it, and you want to say it was awesome, because as a fan, you can watch it, it drips with the passion of the people involved wanting it to be everything for Superman that Batman Begins was for Batman. I left the theater feeling like, it wasn't it. It was a good try. I like where they're going with this. I'm excited to see the next one now that they put everybody where everybody is, but it wasn't it. Beyond what I thought of the movie, what I'm most excited for is to see the conversations about it that are going to happen. If you've seen the movie, leave your comments, because I want to talk to you about all of this. I want to get into this deep, so let's talk about it. Okay, that is my spoiler-free review. Okay, now this is the part where I'm going to go over the whole movie as best as I can recall it. Full spoilers. I'm going to talk about everything to do with the movie. So right here, this is your last chance. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. 1, 2, 3. You've been warned. Don't watch any more of this if you haven't seen the movie, because I'm coming to spoil everything. Okay. The movie opens. First image you see is Lara giving birth to Kal-El. Okay, so they just trimmed the beginning off of Mark Millar's pitch. This is going to be a contentious item. What they did with Krypton. I liked what they did with that. Or rather, I liked that they did something other than show it as a barren wasteland. Or icy, frosty planet. Dairy's Queen. Okay, so Jor-El's going to put his son up into space, and General Zod shows up just as it's being launched, and he gives the whole plot away to Zod. That's my son, and you'll never stop him. He's gone, beyond anything you can reach. Krypton's going to live through him. When the spacecraft is going through space, I'm sitting there thinking, oh man, they're not going to take half an hour to go over the whole thing of the ship crashing and the Kents find him and take him home and they see that the baby's got powers. So when they didn't do that, I was very happy. The spaceship is getting towards Earth and they jump cut to Clark Kent being on a fishing boat. And you've seen the trailers, so you know that the first heavy action piece is going to be Superman's going to save everybody on an oil rig. So we're starting to establish now that Clark is a mystery. One thing that the movie did really well was showing us scenes from Clark Kent's youth discovering his powers. He's starting to hear things, it's driving him crazy. He's starting to see, through his X-ray vision is kicking in. And we see how he's having to learn how to relax and learn how to control his powers. They did a lot of that really well. So it does a few of these flashbacks, and then not really any explanation for it, but there's something up in the north where Lois Lane is going to investigate. She gets up to the Arctic and gets off a plane, and what do you know, Clark is the guy who's helping her with the bags. She's there, she sneaks out of her room at night when she's not supposed to be out, and He's got a camera out and sees Clark going into this hole in the ground. What it is that it's some ship that's been in the ice for tens of thousands of years. It's not the ship that Clark arrived in Krypton from, but Jor-El's consciousness is in it. So we've already seen Jor-El die in the opening sequence of the movie, but now we're seeing him again when Clark finds this spaceship thing and sees Jor-El explaining to him, recapping the whole history of Krypton and the whole story of it blowing up and everything. And so this is where I think the movie could have changed almost nothing. Just a bit of structure would have changed the whole movie and made it way more impactful, I think. Is if you would have started the movie with Clark saving the oil rig as the first big action sequence, like a Rush Hour movie, right? You get a big explosion-laden action sequence right off the bat. So if we just see the shots of him discovering his powers and we haven't yet set up that he's an alien or where he's from, it's getting a little more intriguing now. So when we get to the part when Clark discovers this spaceship and Lois Lane is following him but he hasn't seen her yet, if this was when we see Jor-El for the first time, and Jor-El was like, I'm not your dad, I'm his consciousness uploaded to the computers of this ship, knowing that you would one day find me, and I've got something waiting for you, I think that would have been more dramatically impactful. Because here's the thing, when Superman finds the ship and Jor-El recaps the history of Krypton, he tells the story in flashbacks anyway. And it's like the story's being told in this animatic that's like this metallic liquid metal thing that's shape-shifting into the planets and the stars and the spaceships and people running, and right? You could have melded that into the actual footage, gone into the whole story of Jor-El telling them Krypton's about to blow up and General Zod. All of that could have been the same, but you move it so that it's, instead of how you kick off the movie, you move it to where it's Jor-El telling Kal-El about his own history, much more impactful. And I also think that we wouldn't have been so suspicious of what they're doing with Krypton. I think having it start out on Krypton was the big misstep for this movie. One thing that took me way out of the movie was the product placement. So they're having a lot of battles on the streets in front of 7-Elevens and in the parking lots of a Sears. And one of the guys that Clark saved his life when he was a kid is all grown up and now he's the manager of an IHOP. So there's a battle in an IHOP restaurant. That should have been the time that they're spending having Clark be in Metropolis, and Metropolis is his city, and he's trying to learn how to live without being noticed, but also using his powers to help people, and it should have been like him helping people on a small scale, but he starts slowly getting discovered, and the newspapers wondering about this mystery man. The same way Batman Begins did, right? Bruce Wayne was going out, putting his training into use. He had the mask, but he didn't have the bat thing figured out yet, and he stumbled a couple of times, and jumped across the roof and nearly busted his back up, and so there's humor to it, but we felt for him. Having so much of the movie's time be occupied with General Zod and the Kryptonian villains coming down, trying to get revenge, trying to get Kal-El and all that kind of stuff, that's all like the boilerplate sci-fi plot that really had no place in this movie that was supposed to set up Clark Kent being just a guy who we root for and want to see do right and want to see him figure it out. The one thing that has to be said that I just couldn't buy and took me right out of the movie, the point at which I was like, okay, this is not Superman, was Jonathan Kent has been teaching Clark not to use his powers at all, don't do it. And there's that part in the trailer where little Clark Kent says, what should I have done, let those people die? And Jonathan says, maybe, right? I get that Jonathan Kent, like Perry White, is paranoid about what the truth getting out will mean. And so I get him teaching his son not to use his powers, period. But how they kill Jonathan Kent in this movie is to have the family on the road. They get into a fight where Clark says something about, you're not even my dad. Oh shit, it's a tornado. So they get everybody out of the car. Oh, they forgot the dog. Jonathan Kent, you take your mom under the bridge. I'll go get the dog. Okay, so right there, Clark would not have let his dad go get the dog. A fucking tornado is coming. It's going to start throwing cars all over the place. I don't believe for a second that Clark would have let his dad go get the dog and not him. So Jonathan Kent goes and gets the dog out of the car with the twister coming while Clark's going to hold on to his mom and hold the people all underneath the bridge. So there's trouble. Jonathan Kent can't get out of the car. When he finally does, he's got no time. The Twister's going to take him. Clark's about to run into the action, and Jonathan Kent puts his hand up. Don't. I don't believe for a second that Jonathan Kent would be okay with dying, being taken into a tornado, so that his son's secret could stay safe for just the time being. I don't believe that for a second. And I don't believe for a second that Clark would not have run in there, grabbed his dad, and flew away. Or something like that. What should have happened was Clark was the one to go get the dog. He got the dog out of the car. The Twister came and took Clark Kent away, but really it was Clark like flying away with the dog. This might even be when he's first discovering his flying powers. Flies away with the dog. Everybody sees it and thinks Clark's dead. Oh my God, the Twister got Clark. And here's Mom and Pa Kent looking at it, having to go, no, well, yeah, the Twister got him, knowing full well that he's what their son is and that he's off somewhere else. So then they get home, and there's Clark waiting at home. Everybody thinks he's dead. He has to keep his secret. So he's going to leave, and the dad's like, no, we'll figure it a way. He's like, no, Dad, it's my secret. If we let him know the secret, then the secret's out, because the secret's important. And that's when he leaves and goes to Metropolis. And then we're going to follow him through Metropolis and doing all that Batman Begins stuff. And then you're also setting up the drama for future episodes where, like, in the third sequel, some guy from Smallville could come out and be all like, I saw Clark that day. Everybody thinks the Twister got him, but I saw. He flew away. Like, it's not hard. Well, it is hard, and that's why these movies are so hard to make and why we care so much. It is hard. The movie's not bad, and they tried so hard for it to be dramatic and impactful the way that Batman Begins was. The story just isn't there where it needs to be. This is, I guess, another thing that's really bothering me about this movie is that Batman Begins, it all felt like it was destiny marching forward to this inevitable place. Man of Steel just feels like these random things just bounced off each other, that it's all circumstances and coincidence. The plot does not move forward because of the story. Exposition, dialogue, people talking, like having little almost conferences throughout the movie moves the plot forward. You're watching somebody play a video game, it's a lot of action and fighting and street and throwing in space. Oh, see that? We just threw him into a train, haha. Oh shit, he just picked up that train and threw it at him, haha. And then you get into the next cinematic scene where you kind of want to press the A button to make the talking skip. But anyways, when we get to Metropolis, Metropolis is just kind of arbitrary. Clark Kent, Superman, has no connection to Metropolis yet whatsoever. The Kryptonians, they're going to basically reform the Earth and make it the new Krypton. They're going to pull all the Kryptonian DNA from the Codex that's been implanted in Kal-El. That's what they need him for. But Lois Lane's already involved in the plot here. And so there's a part where they've got her up on the spaceship. They've managed to get Jor-El's consciousness. Remember how I said it was in that Kryptonian ship? Now Jor-El's consciousness is uploaded into the Kryptonian bad guy ship, and he's helping Lois Lane escape. He's like a guide, and he's here. When she turns around, he's here. And he knows to like tell her to move so that when the girl comes in, the Kryptonian villain girl comes in with a knife, and she's going to miss because Jor-El told her to move. To do it that way, there's no impact at all to Jor-El having died at the beginning of the movie. So Lois gets in a pod and gets away, she's down on Earth. They set up this moment that just never turned into nothing, where he tells Lois he has to go fight that thing himself. He's got to go beat up the robot himself. And she says, but it's Kryptonian, isn't that going to weaken you if you get near it? And he goes, maybe, but I have to try. And then when he goes, it didn't affect him or nothing. Or if it did, they didn't communicate that it affected him because he did it anyway. He got down and then he flew up into it and it broke apart, and there you go. When this machine that's in Metropolis, just why? Because they never say why. Metropolis is just as arbitrary. It might as well have been Kansas City, or might as well have been Miami, or might as well have been Portland. And so this thing it's almost like it's drilling, right? And every time this thing pulses into the ground, it's making this earthquake kind of wave, and it's leveling out the world. And so you see buildings falling and people running away from the buildings falling behind them. So the movie hasn't earned that epic city destruction scale. It's just like action and chaos for the sake of action and chaos. Superman flies up the fucking thing and punches out the top. The machine's off, everybody's alive, and Superman and Lois are embracing, and they share a kiss. And I'm thinking they haven't earned that either. We haven't really had any time to develop them having a crush on each other because everything's just been so action-packed and fast-moving up to now. I think it might have been more impactful to not have Superman and Lois kiss. The day's saved, Superman and Lois have a kiss, but Zod's still alive, so Superman's gonna go after Zod. And Superman and Zod have what you can tell they're trying to have be just the most epic superhero boxing slugfest ever put on screen. And it's cool, right? We're seeing Superman, like, he punches Zod and then flies up to catch up with him before he can fall and punches him again. And by the time we finally get to them having punched each other through buildings and around buildings and up and down and into the sky and back down again, we get to the final bit where Zod has his laser eyes going. Way earlier in the movie, Kal-El had said to him, "Oh, what's happening to you that's making you feel weird? That's the powers that you're getting from being on Earth, and you're getting them all at once. So you haven't done what I did and learned how to control it. You need to focus. I learned how to just focus on what I want to focus on. You're going to have to too. You haven't yet. That's why you feel sick." And so, okay, so now Zod knows to fucking control it when we get to the end. So Zod knows how to do his heat vision, and he's doing his heat vision, he's shooting it at a wall, and he's trying to shoot at these people, but Superman's holding his head, so he's like, "Let go of me, I want to blast these people. You can't save them." First of all, why are you in the train station during the apocalypse? They shouldn't have been there, wouldn't have been there, don't buy it. But they're there. So Zod is shooting them with his laser vision. And this is the controversial moment when Superman finally feels like he's backed into a corner and he does that classic, spin his head and kill him. There's people that feel that he would never have done that. That didn't bother me so much. Maybe it's just that by that point I wasn't caring so much. I had signed up for this movie that's going to be about Clark Kent. And instead they gave us a movie that's really about Krypton and General Zod more than it's even about Superman. We come out of that into the finale. Clark's been talking to his mom about how he needs to find a job, that nobody's going to think twice about him being able to go where he needs to go. And so we see him walking into the Daily Planet. We see what they're about to do. They're about to do the big reveal of Clark Kent with the glasses on as the reporter. Perry White introduces Lois Lane to her new colleague, can introduce you to Clark Kent. And here's one thing that I really liked that this movie did, was I was looking forward to how it was going to address that notion of Clark Kent, the dual identity, and that whole business about how it's just silly that anybody would not recognize him once he puts his glasses on. So to not have that alter ego version of adult Clark Kent, the reporter for the Daily Planet, to just not have that version of Clark Kent in the movie at all, and for Lois, in investigating the story, to come across the Kents and Superman and to know the truth about him and that kind of thing. So she's got that relationship with him and knows that he is this guy who was raised as Clark Kent. So she's already in on the secret before Perry White introduces her to Clark Kent, the reporter. I really liked what they did there. And it means that now that everybody's in place and that his world is established, I am very excited to see what they do next. Whether it's Zack Snyder directing or somebody else or whatever they do next, I think that's going to be more the Superman movie that we're waiting to see and that we want. My review is sort of halfway. They got a lot right, but they got too much wrong to give it a full endorsement. It's fun and it's worth seeing, but it's not the timeless classic that we were all praying it was going to be. And I'm looking very, very, very forward to the fans talking about it online in the coming weeks. I think that opinion is going to be split. I think that people are going to be very passionate both ways. And I really want to be part of that conversation. So if you've seen Man of Steel and you think that I'm out to lunch on any of this, or if you agree with some or all of it, or even none of it, I want to hear from you. I'm really, really excited for the dialogue that we're going to have in the comments talking about this movie. So there is my early review of Man of Steel. You're watching my vlog channel. Head over to my main channel to check out dozens of epic superhero costume videos, hilarious parodies. You'll watch them all over there. Subscribe. You stay right here for news and opinion from me on my vlog channel. Thanks so much for watching. And like I said, if you've seen Man of Steel, let me know if you agree with me or you think I'm out to lunch or whatever on any of this. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. Put it in the comments. Let's chat, because this is what being a nerd and being a fan is all about. Thanks so much for watching. Love you, and talk to you soon.